Samantha gripped the worn handle of her tesseract scanner, its hum a constant against the cacophony of the interdimensional transit hub. Her eyes looked like they saw everything and nothing at once, darting between the swirling portals that winked in and out of existence. Another day, another dimension, she muttered under her breath. The hub never slept. A bulbous creature with too many teeth zipped through security, clutching a duffel bag tight in its primary appendage. 3 figures cloaked head to toe in shimmering robes shimmered into view, their forms flickering like a heat haze before stabilizing. Samantha's shoulders tensed. Hooded figures usually meant trouble. A sharp chirp from her scanner jolted her from her musings. Zeroing in on the source, she spotted a lanky bipedal creature in a garish jumpsuit. It shoved through the crowds, a bulky pack lurching on its back. Bingo, Samantha breathed. She slipped through the masses like a fish through water, zeroing in on her target. It shifted nervously, its head swiveling to scan the chaotic terminal. Samantha had seen that look 100 times, the telltale signs of a nervous smuggler with something to hide. It was time to go to work. "Excuse me, sir." Samantha reached out and placed a hand on the surprised creature's shoulder. It leapt back with a startled yelp, its eyes widening as it landed on Samantha's uniform, the crisp navy and gleaming insignia of the Interdimensional Customs Agency. "Customs inspection," she said with a practiced smile. "If you'll just step through that portal." She gestured towards a dormant gateway that shimmered nearby. Protocol dictated that all random checks needed to be conducted away from the prying eyes of the main terminal. The creature hesitantly shuffled towards the dormant portal. Samantha followed close behind, her scanner whirring gently. She flicked it on, and a holographic display bloomed over the creature and its misshapen pack. Tendrils of blue light danced over the bag's surface, revealing the ghostly outline of the contents within. "Care to explain this?" Samantha asked coolly. Her finger pointed towards a particularly suspicious section of the scan, a swirling mass of warped energy that pulsed with a sickly green light. Timelines were highly unstable. The creature, whatever species it was, broke out in a slimy sweat. It's just souvenirs," it croaked, voice wobbling. "Collected from my travels, you see." "Souvenirs likely to destabilize temporal integrity? Interesting choice," Samantha countered. She flicked her gaze towards its pack again. "And what about the rest? Care to explain why you're carrying restricted bioweapons from the Xylorax cluster? Not to mention a dozen eggs from an endangered draconian fireworm?" The creature's facade of innocence crumbled. Its spindly legs tried to bolt, but Samantha was faster. Ducking under a swipe of its surprisingly strong arm, she pulled her regulation taser and fired. Arcs of electricity crackled across the creature's jumpsuit, and it shrieked before collapsing to the floor, paralyzed. "Typical," Samantha grumbled. She reached for her comm unit. "I need backup and containment Portal 88. The suspect is attempting to smuggle unauthorized timelines and assorted contraband." Moments later, the portal shimmered again, and 2 burly security officers, their carapace-like armor gleaming, stepped through. Working efficiently, they slapped containment cuffs onto the unconscious creature. Samantha leaned against the wall, catching her breath. "Remind me again why I chose this job," she chuckled to herself. The officers simply grunted in response. Another chirp from her scanner was insistent this time. Samantha sighed. Looks like another smuggler just walked through the door. The Interdimensional Transit Hub was teeming with suspects. A never-ending parade of aliens, creatures, and entities from every conceivable corner of the multiverse. In this melting pot of the bizarre, Even the seemingly ordinary turned suspicious under Samantha's trained eye. "Don't worry, Sammy. You'll get that big bust one day." Jenkins, the hub's perpetually exasperated supervisor, was fond of saying, a note of pity buried somewhere in his gruff voice. Samantha had her doubts. Seizures were mostly small time. A forbidden plant here, an unregistered pet there. Busting a major smuggling ring. That was the stuff of legends, tales whispered in hushed tones among the grizzled interdimensional customs vets. A sharp, trilling whistle cut through her thoughts. Her scanner zeroed in on a sleek, almost feline silhouette weaving through the crowd. The readout sent shivers down her spine. Unauthorized chronal disruptor, a weapon designed to tear holes in the fabric of time itself. This was it. This was her big bust. Samantha's heart hammered against her ribs, a mix of adrenaline and anticipation coursing through her veins. "Jenkins," she whispered into her comm. "I've got a code. Lavender. Suspected chronal disruptor. Heading eastbound." A pause, and then Jenkins' voice crackled back, filled with an edge she'd never heard before. "Copy that. Interceptor team inbound to your location. Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage. We'll take this one by the book, Agent." Her pulse quickened. Book meant extreme caution and full team deployment. Her fingers twitched, instinctively reaching for the taser she knew would be practically useless against whatever monstrosity carried that kind of firepower. Samantha followed the readout, her footsteps quick and quiet. The silhouette melted into a seedy-looking bar, catering to a rough crowd of hulking, multi-limbed beings. One more portal hop and she was in pursuit, her scanner leading her deeper into the establishment. The air grew thick, a stench of cheap liquor and desperation hanging heavy. Crude laughter mixed with harsh growls and the clinking of tankards. Perfect cover. The scanner flashed red, a pulsing beacon amidst the dim chaos of the bar. Samantha squinted, her focus narrowing. The target sat alone, slumped at a corner table. Nothing about them screamed, dangerous mastermind wielding a weapon of temporal devastation. They looked, dare she say, ordinary, except for the tentacles. Her breath hitched. The creature, humanoid in shape, nursed a grimy drink with several of its appendages. At the same time, the remaining writhing tentacles poked and prodded at a battered suitcase resting on the table. Intellect. The scanner's readout painted a terrifying picture. This wasn't a mindless brute, but a brilliant physicist, from a species known for its reckless pursuit of temporal manipulation, a dangerous mind, wielding an even more dangerous device. Samantha's hand hovered over the taser, then dropped back to her side. She needed the interceptors, but every second wasted was a second closer to potential disaster. A decision had to be made. Jenkins' voice echoed in her ear. "Do not engage." Yet, safeguarding countless timelines burned in her chest, a pressure far heavier than any regulation. "Blast," she murmured under her breath. Sometimes the hero in these tales just had to ignore the rulebook, she thought. Samantha holstered her scanner, then moved with predatory grace, blending into the shadows. She felt, rather than saw, the tentacles swivel towards her, but they were too slow. A practiced hand clamped over the creature's mouth, stifling the startled cry. With a burst of strength, she yanked the startled creature backward. The suitcase tumbled open, but the disruptor lay nestled within, still powered down. She wrestled the creature out of the bar and, through a utility portal, back into the sterile confines of a deserted hub corridor. The noise faded, her ears filled with the roaring of her own heartbeat. "Jenkins!" she blurted, her voice ragged. I've detained the suspect and the chronal disruptor secured, requesting immediate transfer as well as a holding cell. Her knees threatened to buckle, and the adrenaline rush finally crashed. Jenkins was already sprinting towards her when Samantha staggered through the portal. His jaw clenched, eyes wide with a mix of alarm. Was that pride? Behind him, the interceptor team surged, weapons drawn and trained on the struggling creature. They swarmed in, binding the tentacled physicist with shock suppression cables before hauling it away to the secure depths of the hub. "Nice work, Agent," Jenkins finally said, his voice thick with an emotion Samantha couldn't quite identify. "Really fine work." He clapped a hand on her shoulder, a gesture that felt weightier than any reprimand. Samantha swayed, exhausted and relieved. A potent mix was washing over her. Her gaze flicked towards the cell where the creature was being frog-marched, its writhing tentacles now useless. This was it, her big bust, secured not by procedure, but by a gut feeling and a reckless gamble. Later, slumped in her tiny office amidst a hailstorm of paperwork, a hot mug of coffee clutched in tired hands, Samantha replayed the moment. The creature's shocked eyes, the weight of the disruptor in the suitcase. She had gone rogue, put everything on the line, and won. Her comm unit buzzed, Jenkins's voice filling the small space. "Sammy, my office. Now." She braced herself for what may have come down from the higher-ups. A reprimand, suspension, or maybe even a dishonorable discharge. But a flicker of defiance sparked in her chest. Smuggling contraband timelines into her dimension? Unacceptable. Samantha squared her shoulders. Time to face the consequences. Head held high. Let the higher-ups and their blasted rulebook try to stop her now. Someone had to keep the multiverse safe, even if it meant breaking a few rules along the way. Samantha entered Jenkins's office with a mix of trepidation and a defiant spark still flickering in her eyes. Instead of the expected reprimand, she found her supervisor standing beside a figure in a crisp uniform, a high-ranking agent in a different part of the agency, if the insignia was any indication. Jenkins, for once, looked almost sheepish. "Good work out there today, Agent," he rumbled. "Sir, I understand procedures weren't exactly followed," Samantha began, ready to defend her actions. The agent cut her off with a surprisingly warm smile. "Sometimes, Agent, initiative outweighs regulation. Your actions have earned you the gratitude of, well, multiple realities." He gestured to a holographic display that suddenly bloomed to life in the center of the room. It showcased several alternate timelines teetering on the brink of chaos, then stabilizing, a direct result of Samantha's risky interception. "We've been tracking this smuggling ring for years," Jenkins chimed in, his gruffness giving way to an uncharacteristic flicker of awe. "You just took down their biggest operation." Samantha stared, her mind whirling. "So, no suspension?" "Hardly," the high-ranking official chuckled. "You're being promoted, Agent, and a little something more." With a wave of his hand, the holographic display shifted, now broadcasting a grand hall, officials and dignitaries from countless species buzzing with anticipation. "Your actions will be recognized, publicly," the nameless agent said. "We need heroes, Agent. People who aren't afraid to do what is right, not just what is easy." Stunned silence filled the room. Then, slowly, Samantha's lips curved into a triumphant grin. Someone had to protect the multiverse, and apparently, that someone was her. And it looked like being a hero wasn't half bad as she looked forward to saving even more timelines in the future.